All right, welcome to episode 2, my friends, where we talk naked and unafraid, the spiritual kink of being seen. Welcome to Spiritually Kinky, the playground for your wild soul and untamed truth. I'm Dustin, your guide on this delicious adventure where we're going to ditch the rules, melt the masks, and remember how powerful it is to be fully seen, deeply felt, and wildly free. Around here, we talk pleasure, power, and the path of awakening with just a little wink and a whip of wisdom. I love saying that. So, we live in a world that is opening infinite portals of possibility, but also quietly pulling us farther apart. So, from dating to digital connection, from dating to digital disconnection, from feminine burnout to wounded masculine collapse, what does real connection even look like anymore? So, after having more than 35,000 conversations with people in the last 7 years through Ubering, workshops, seminars, all the things, what I have found is that so many people are longing for connection while feeling more alone, numb, and disconnected than ever. But what if the kinkiest, most rebellious, most healing thing that we could do is to let ourselves be truly seen? So, in this episode, we're going to talk creation, we're going to talk energy, polarity, and powerful consent. So, let's talk about creator energy and the art of direction. So, the truth is that you are the creator. You're the one with the wand, the one who gets to choose what gets your life force. You need to remember that we're not victims of this strange moment in time, we're architects of it. And our identity doesn't need to die, it just needs to be redesigned. So, how do we do that? Well, we do that with conscious choice, focus, and flow. And how energy follows intention. Because where you put your focus is where your energy goes. And focus is made up of your attention and your intention. So the truth is that when it comes to relationships and when it comes to trying to create a relationship with ourselves, most people, we're trying to build love with broken tools. And this is really our wounded energy. And then we're wondering why nothing holds. And the truth is that as we start going through our super conscious hero's journey, where we have to forget who we really are, and we have to learn how to survive and stay alive in our families, that our unconscious starts to develop from some untruths. And we start to navigate our way in the world and build a reality off of the untruths that are really running the story of most of what's going on within us, with most people, and in the world around us. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's part of the journey and how we had to learn how to be human and how to stay alive. We needed to forget who we were. But it's time to wake up. Because the truth is until you embody who you really are, you're creating from an identity of not it. I'm not enough. I'm not capable. I'm not worthy. I'm not significant. I don't belong. I'm not perfect. And when you're creating in this energy and you're creating in this identity and you're taking the action with the intention that you're not it, you will always get the same oscillating results. But when you stand on the stone that you are the creator and that is the only label that matters, and you start to ask yourself, what would I love to create? You change the name of the game, baby, and you change the structure from a problem structure to a creative flow structure. And you are creative force energy, baby. Science has proven it. You are not the human. You are the intelligent wisdom, the intelligent force that lives within the human. You designed the human. But as powerful as this shift is, it's also terrifying, because this is where you start making the shift from being the oldest version of your past self into the youngest version of your future self. And what would happen if you stopped living from your history and started living from your mystery and vision? That's where the good stuff is. So if most women are walking around in wounded energy, wounded masculine energy, and so many men out there aren't claiming their masculine energy, so what do we need to understand? Now, for the sake of this show, these are the premises that I am going to use to define masculine and feminine energy, just so we have a place to work off together. I recognize and realize that there might be other terms and labels and everything that you've heard, but for the sake of this show, these are the premises that we're going to work on. So it isn't about gender, it's about energetics. And we have to learn how to embody both masculine and feminine energy within. Otherwise, we'll keep projecting our wounds onto everyone else, and we'll just keep living out the stories with each other. So, for the sake of the show, I'm going to define masculine as presence, penetration, direction, container, and sacred stillness. And I'm going to define feminine as flow, feeling, receiving, expression, and the untamed mystery. Now, here's the distortions that a lot of people are living in. And here's the distortion that I lived in most of my life. Because at a very young age, my consent was taken away. In my family, we have a lot of family suffering obligations of love, of abuse, of addiction, of just distortion and dysfunction, and it's nobody's fault. And we're going to unpack how these contracts get passed down, because these contracts were actually passed down in love. But what we can understand is that we can actually give these contracts back. But we have to create an awareness of how we're living at the moment, right? So the common distortions of the wounded feminine: overgiving, drama, manipulation, martyrdom, victim, right? Wounded masculine: control, avoidance, domination, and narcissism. Now, the real talk is that women overfunctioning in masculine, they can't receive, they distrust men, and they try and do it all on their own. And most of the women I know are living here. So men disembodied from masculine, inconsistent, unrooted, checking out, or taking without giving. So I want you to ask yourself a real question. Are you running more? And is it aligned with what you're trying to call in? Now, I'm going to give you the exact steps that I use to do this, and how I reorientate and redesign and choose my conscious choice, my focus, and my flow every day. I'm going to give you those exact steps. So make sure that you keep listening, because I'm not just going to talk these fluffy concepts. I'm actually going to give you the practical, magical principles that you can start with. And all you need to do is start and allow your voice to evolve as you take those steps forward. So let's talk about creating real connection from wholeness. Because you cannot outsource intimacy, you cannot fake embodiment, and you can't seduce someone into loving you until you have said yes to your own damn self. You cannot skip this step. And if you are choosing love and chasing love to fix a hole inside, you will always get the same results that are wounded. It doesn't matter the face that your partner is wearing. Because if they are moving in this pattern with you, then they are creating from their wounds as well. So what we need to understand is, if it's real union that we want to choose, real union comes from overflow. not need. And we can create that overflow within ourselves. We are the master of our emotions. It's just we're not taught how to do this. We're not taught at this time in our schools and our institutions to remember who we really are and how to actually take practical, magical principles and put them in front of us so we can actually begin to make the shift and create a future that embodies both the spirit within on a conscious level as we choose to create in this body going forward. And most people are caught in the pain of people pleasing, codependency, control, and fear of abandonment. And that's why we need to create awareness around this, especially as AI and marketing is evolving, right? We want to create and choose from a place rooted in our whole masculine and feminine energy, because the truth is it takes both for transformation. We literally surfed in on a wave of masculine and feminine energy called orgasm. So we need to understand that we can practice sovereign consent as the next level of intimacy and practice when we give that permission and consent to ourselves. And here's the kicker. Here's the consent, because first you have to give this consent to yourself. So I give you permission to use the power of your touch, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, with no rules, to enhance my pleasure and decrease my pain. And I ask for you to trust. And I ask for your trust to do the same for you. So that's if you're giving that permission and consent to another. And I just want you to let that land like a whisper in your ear, going straight to your heart. Because life requires that kind of permission and consent. And if you're not giving that permission and consent to yourself, and you're not acting in the way of that permission and consent, you will not find it in another being, because it lives within you. So we have to understand that real connection in this life is not about performance. It's about an embodied presence. It's about conscious choice, intentional focus, and wild flow. Because you get to create love, sex, and relationships from a whole new paradigm, one that's rooted in ownership, energy, and consent. So I want you to ask yourself, as we start to wrap up this episode, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions and be honest. Where have I been performing instead of connecting? Where am I using love to fill a void instead of honoring my own wholeness? And what does it look like for me to be seen, truly seen, and not shrink away? Listen, being seen is the real kink, but you've got to undress your masks first. So, as we wrap up today's episode, I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. And remember that you are the creator and you get to choose what it is you want to create. Everything that comes up in the middle is just your resistance coming from your unconscious, because your unconscious is ultimately what denies or allows you to have what you want. And as we practice in the embodiment of spirit, we get to retrain our nervous system to feel safe and secure in the receiving of what flavor we choose. And you get to choose. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the creator of it. And you may not have been choosing consciously, but you have been choosing. Now it's simply time to upgrade those instructions. So if you're ready to try on this new saucy label called creator and move forward with a willingness to lay down the masks and lay down the labels, we're going to go nice and deep in our next episode, where we're going to talk about how to build on a foundation of vision, value, and voice. So stay tuned, my friends, and remember that softness is a choice. Pleasure is a choice. And it's time for you to choose. Stay spiritually kinky, my friends.